I realized that this could be a race against time. I noticed a bent old woman carrying a little string shopping bag who was being helped through the melee on the arms of a Bosniak policeman, whereas everyone else, young, old, male, female, is fair game for the police. I scream, and I come out of reliving the incident in the EMDR session, and I burst into tears. "You're in a safe place," says Sophie, the psychologist. I sob that I've waited 22 years to let out that scream. Sylvie adds, somatization is the term for stress stored in the body. What will be our next EMDR appointment? Bosnia again? Honduras? Or Darfur? Speaking of Darfur, it was an angry outburst, my angry outburst, while watching the film Darfur, Not on Our Watch, 2 years ago during the Veteran Trainers to Eradicate Child Soldiers course. Joanne was in the room. That led to my diagnosis, initially, of an operational stress injury in September 2017, and then PTSD in April 2018. Cognitive behavioral therapy treatments, or CBT, treatments then ensued to identify my distorted thinking patterns, as well as drugs to attenuate the nightmares. My nightly dream theme, if there is such a thing, was being trapped in a violent confrontation or an immoral dilemma, unaided by either Canada or the United Nations. But unlike in the movies, no one arrived to rescue me. CBT turns your self-concept upside down, as you must accept that you are one of those guys or one of those girls. Life was exhausting, as I had to balance my dreams with a touch of paranoia, a flash temper, severe hearing loss, sleep apnea, and vertigo. I discovered in March of this year that they are possibly linked to mefloquine, which is an anti-malarial drug that I took in early 2000 following recurrent malaria picked up during the deployment of the first disaster assistance response team deployment in Honduras in 1998, where I was the commanding officer. I struggled to keep my life in order by placing yellow sticky notes throughout the house and then misplacing many of them. I found previously easy tasks extremely difficult due to gaps in my working memory. For example, in June of last year, I traveled to Cranfield University in the United Kingdom to present 2 academic papers in my civilian role as a defense consultant. And I had a vacation break in between the 2 papers for a tour of Scotland. On my arrival in Heathrow Terminal 2, the noise and the bustle overwhelmed my senses. It was almost impossible for me to function. I was glad to have allocated 2 hours to find my train to Swindon, which was 90 minutes west. During my vacation break in Scotland, I had to stifle my hair-trigger temper after being entreated rather rudely by an American tourist on our bus. On my return to Canada, I could not remember the 10-minute drive from my house to my Bedford yoga studio. I just got into the car hoping that my body would remember the route, which in fact it did. As autumn 2018 wore on, I completed the PEI half marathon, but then stopped marathon training due to plantar fasciitis. Marathon running was a great, I guess, anxiety dampener for me. I love to run, and I couldn't. I found deadlines in my civilian consulting business were weighing very heavily, and I tried both anti-anxiety medications and antidepressants to find a better balance in life. I attended both United Church and Roman Catholic faith groups to try to find some solace, and in fact, I did. However, the greatest factor in my post-traumatic growth has been the mind-body-spirit practice of yoga. The purpose of yoga, according to the yoga sage Patanjali, is to use the body and the breath to calm the fluctuations of the mind. I began yoga teacher training at the Therapeutic Approach to Yoga Studio in September 2018. And one of my main teachers, Helen Fong, is here tonight. Helen was a great influence on my training as a yoga teacher. And Joanne, I might add, is also another yoga teacher. As I had practiced yoga for almost 10 years, this seemed to be a logical progression. However, I found my memory gaps to be very embarrassing as I watched people half my age go seamlessly through yoga sequences that I really struggled to link out in my brain, because you lose the capacity to link things. It was very frustrating, as I once was able to memorize military checklists, complicated parade drill, and speeches in both Russian, as I was a Russian interpreter, and in French. I started to practice daily yoga sun salutations, and I compiled YouTube videos to try to cement the sequences in my spotty working memory. In early May of this year, I attended 2 trauma-informed yoga therapy courses in Ottawa, with the goal of integrating these skills in my teaching. In the first course, Earth Element, we learned how to provide a safe environment for our yoga clients to get in touch with their bodies, and hopefully to release some of their deeply stored trauma through moving their body and regulating their breath. In the second course, Water Element, we learned the science of yoga. I had long known that moving the head below the heart in poses like downward facing dog was calming. I learned that it was because the baroreceptors in the aortic arch of the heart sense pressure changes. They tell the brain that the blood pressure is now too high, and then it has to pump slower. There were many such other bio-epiphanies, as I like to call them, as the course went on, and I returned home more deeply enthused than ever to apply this new knowledge to help my yoga clients caught in a trauma vortex. I added a Teaching Yoga to Seniors course to my toolkit in late May, which imparts how to safely improvise with individual clients' capabilities and physical limitations on the spot. Trauma may lead you to interesting places, even if you're not initially willing to go there. But if you're open to new ideas, it's a great journey. I believe that there is a tremendous need in the Halifax region for people to learn how to use their body and their breath to cope with the challenges in their lives. And I specialize in assisting other military members and first responders on that journey. I believe that these lessons in building and maintaining resilience are needed not at the end of a career, and I am at the end of a career. In fact, I'm in the last 4.5 hours of my career. I will end my career at midnight tonight. However, I believe that you need these lessons throughout a career, as it's necessary to first teach and then to refresh self-regulation techniques rather than using the more traditional approach of, in case of emergency, break glass. You cannot guarantee that the traditional approach will guarantee that rescue breathing, as they call it, or SEAL breathing, the old idea of breathing in for 4, holding for 2, breathing out for 6, and climbing a scale. A lot of people are taught that in their road to mental readiness in the military. I've seen it applied also in police services. But unless you constantly refresh that skill, there's absolutely no guarantee that that will work in a crisis until it becomes an instinctual, ingrained response. As Joanne and I talked about, you got to get bendy mentally as well as physically. So where am I now? I'm not out of the PTSD woods yet, but my path out is very clearly marked. I still have memory drops, but I use visual memory strategies now to make up for the lost storage in my brain's hippocampus, and I formed a new identity beyond angry old soldier, which I described as crazy old yoga dude. To the senior student on my trauma-informed yoga therapy course. This lady was a psychology professor at the University of Minnesota, and she'd been teaching yoga for over 25 years. She gave me a hug, complimented me on my post-traumatic growth, and told me to drop the crazy old. I will honor her request for now, and I hope to pass on these resilience lessons to as many people as I can on my path to becoming the crazy old yoga dude. As we yogis say, namaste, everyone. The spirit in me truly honors the spirit in you. Thank you.